This show contains general information about legal matters. This information is not advice and should not be treated as such. If you have any specific questions about any legal matter, you should consult your attorney or other professional legal services provider. Be advised that while Cheapskate is a lawyer, he is not your lawyer. Also, Jimmy Franks is an idiot, and you should never take his advice.
You're listening to Song Crimes, where there is an outstanding warrant for the band Warrant. I'm professional idiot Jimmy Franks, and along with real-life attorney Cheapskate, we explore the statements and confessions made by songwriters in popular music and pass judgment on those who choose to operate outside the law. Court is now in session. The first one we got here is Brownsville Station, Smokin' in the Boys' Room.
Smoking in the boys' room. Smoking in the boys' room. Nah.
Motley Crue also did a cover of it.
Which I tried very hard to forget.
Did you? So they're sitting in a classroom thinking it's a drag, listening to the teacher rap. It just ain't their bag. The noon bell rings. You know that's their cue to meet the boys on floor number 2. We should determine how old they are, and I'm assuming they're in high school or younger. They're probably not legal to be buying cigarettes and having cigarettes in the first place, right?
Right. And because this band is from Michigan, I went and looked up Michigan law on minor imposition of tobacco, assuming this is tobacco, which they could be smoking, marijuana. They could be smoking research chemicals. Who knows?
They're vaping in the boys' room.
yeah, hoping to God it's tobacco. In Michigan, minor imposition of tobacco, that's a $50 fine and community service.
What about the store? So if when I was in high school, I remember some kids got in trouble for using fake IDs to buy beer. Now, is the store in trouble for that?
The store in most states is going to have a responsibility to check IDs and try and keep minors out. Some states have undercover minor programs where they send in some high school kids and have them secretly buy smokes and then come back and report on whether they had their IDs checked or not. Then again, we don't know where they got these cigarettes. They may have just stolen them off their parents.
That's true. Okay, so these kids are smoking indoors. Let's talk about fire safety.
Yeah, it's never a great idea to smoke indoors. That said, I checked the International Fire Code, and the specific prohibition on there is that you can't smoke in places, quote, where conditions are such as to make smoking a hazard, and in spaces where flammable or combustible materials are stored and or handled.
And everybody knows that smoking ain't allowed in school.
Right. That is found in a different code, though, other than the International Fire Code. This is a bathroom that also has like a janitor's closet in it that keeps a bunch of combustible materials. Then, we've got serious fire code problems, and one careless cigarette could blow the whole school sky high.
Well, and that also would be huffing in the boys' room, probably for a different episode.
Right, covered in an entirely different song, Brownsville Station, trying to become a 2-hit wonder.
The hit sequel to Smoking in a Boys' Room, huffing in the janitor's closet.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, because it wasn't really clear about truancy in this song. They do wait for the noon bell to ring before they meet the boys.
Right.
So they're probably on break.
Yeah, and they're not really all that rebellious then, are they?
No, they're not. They're courteous. At least they're taking it in the bathroom. They're not doing it in the hallway. They certainly don't want to get caught, so they're sneaking around, but can't really get them on truancy.
Yeah, and in Michigan, truancy isn't really a big deal unless it's habitual, and then if they do make a habit of being a truant, it's their parents who get punished for it rather than the kids.
Right. And I mean, they're still on school grounds, so they're not, I mean, they're cutting class, if they're cutting class, but it sounds like they're just skipping lunch.
Yeah.
And the kid might get fired from the school bookstore because he's bouncing to go smoke in the can instead of going to his shift. It was a checkout counter. I got bored. 2 hours later, you know where I was found. So,
right, unless his shift was shorter than 2 hours.
You know what? These kids are actually kind of, other than the smoking, they seem like good kids. They have jobs. They work their shifts. They go to class. And what they do in their free time is kind of their business. They should probably just do it off of school grounds.
Wait to have a smoke until after they're back home.
All right, Cheapskate. Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty of underage use of tobacco.
I sentenced Brownsville Station to the patch because smoking cessation is one way to beat the habit and increase your quality of life, especially if you're that young. If you don't smoke, don't start, and if you do, quit.
For Brownsville Station, I sentenced them not to write songs about huffing in the janitor's closet.
or to at least maybe as a public service to write about how bad an idea it is.
Yeah. Public service announcement about the dangers of inhalants. I don't believe I've ever seen a public service announcement about the danger of inhalants conducted by a celebrity.
So on the docket now we have Bob Seger, the Motor City Madman. Oh, wait, no, that's Ted Nugent. Sorry. Bob Seger, also from Michigan, with a little song called Night Moves.
Working on a night move.
Well, this is a song about, well, it's about
it's about the same thing as every Bob Seger song is, which is about realizing that you're an old man now.
It's a tender reflection on the fleetingness of youth. And also getting naked in the back of a car. So first off, it seems like Bob's doing a lot of trespassing with the black-haired beauty. Out past the cornfields where the woods got heavy. He's in the back room. He's in the alley. He's in the trusty woods. Presumably, he's young enough that he doesn't own any of these properties. So he's on somebody else's turf. Is he breaking some laws by practicing his night moves in other places?
Maybe. In Michigan, they're generally expecting the owner of the property to tell people, don't come here. So unless there are big posted no trespassing signs around there, he's probably in the clear once. The moment he gets caught by, backroom security or some lady throwing her trash out in the alley or the forest ranger, and they say don't come back, he's on notice. He's on notice to find yet another place to make out.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about whether he's on in a state park or a national park.
God forbid he's on federal property. This whole thing would become a nightmare.
Okay, let's just assume he's down at the municipal park. He's at the ball fields. He's in the dugout.
Yeah, he's not at like Zion Canyon or someplace else where it would be complicated.
Assuming that, let's say he makes it past second base, there's going to be some skin. There's going to be some nudity. We might see some nipple, male or female, or more. Indecent exposure, public nudity, you're in your car in Michigan practicing your night moves. Somebody sees you, I'm assuming he hasn't pulled into the back room, but he's in the trusty woods or in the cornfields. Yeah. And, Farmer Tom stumbles across this scene. What happens?
In Michigan, the indecent exposure law prohibits the open or indecent exposure of his or her person or the person of another. And then there was a Supreme Court of Michigan case where they tried to figure out, how does this apply to a nudist colony that's out in the middle of nowhere?
So Bob Seger's running a mobile nudist colony out of his 60 Chevy, basically.
Yeah. What you have to do to commit indecent exposure is you have to have, quote, a reasonably inferable indecent intention by the exposure, as well as a reasonably to expected reaction of shock and shame on the part of the probable exposee. So you have to be displaying yourself directed at a person to try to piss them off. So if Farmer Tom just catches them making out and he says, "You kids, get off my property," probably no charge. Now, if he catches them making out and Bob starts standing up and doing pelvic thrusts and going, "Wee, look at my junk," then you probably got a charge. A fun quote from this Supreme Court opinion. The judge says about indecent exposure, "The plain fact is that usually there is involved an aggressive and unmistakably erotic attempt to focus the attention of others solely on the sexual organs of the exposer, and as any weary patrolman knows, if some judges may have forgotten, most usually on a certain engorged portion of the male anatomy." That's how judges write when they want to make jokes.
Well, he did say they were trying to make some front page drive-in news.
Yeah, like if they were up on stage at the drive-in theater, that's definitely got to get them busted.
He wanted to make the front page of the local paper. So he's got to work a little bit harder on that. He should be more conspicuous.
Yeah, unless front page drive-in is some kind of euphemism that I don't want to go into.
Okay. And then what about the as we mentioned at the top of this, this is a reflection on days gone by. So if he had, was publicly showing off little Bob to get on the front page of the Drive-In News, which maybe is a publication in Michigan that I'm not aware of. It's a trade publication for drive-in movie theaters. I'm not sure.
It's Variety for drive-ins.
That is a very specific kink that he wants to get on the front page of the Drive-In Trade Mag. What's the statute of limitations on this? Because he's thinking back to a night back around the 60s, I'm assuming. Let's say he's turned himself in to the state patrol in Michigan. He's like, look, I need to confess. I was working on my night moves. All this stuff happened. I want you to arrest me. What happens?
Almost certainly nothing. The usual statute of limitations in Michigan is 6 years. So he's out of danger in the 70s. Wait, when did he record this song?
He recorded it in the 70s, but he was humming a song from 1962.
Okay.
So we can say that it was probably 62 is, around the time where this happened.
All right. According to Wikipedia, which is never wrong, it was released on December 12th of 1976. So he's fine.
We've got to make a ruling on this. Is Mr. Seger guilty or not guilty? He's making the front page of the Drive-In News. Are we also going to get a mug shot?
Very unlikely.
Get a room. Take your night moves indoors. Yeah. Get an Airbnb. He should probably be pretty well versed in his night moves now. Doesn't need to practice them outside anymore. Thomas Dolby, I believe a British musician.
Yes.
But we're going for the sake of this exercise that he was on a student visa studying in America when she blinded me with science.
She blinded me with science. She blinded me with science.
So he's not making a confession per se, but he is reporting a crime when he says that I believe his instructor blinded him with science, hit him with technology, and, to add insult to injury, failed him in geometry. So what is going on here?
All right, so blinding is probably going to fall into aggravated battery in most states because this is a form of serious bodily injury. The old-fashioned term for what's going on here is mayhem.
I have a feeling that word's going to show up a lot. The two things that are going to show up a lot in this are mayhem and Johnny Cash.
Two sides of the same coin.
Pretty much, yeah.
Blinding somebody and using science involved, that may be a sentencing enhancement depending on what it's doing. I know there are some places that have sentencing enhancements if, like, you're using acid to attack somebody. There is the possibility that she just brewed up some terrible moonshine that blinded him, which would also be a form of blinding with science, and that would fall under state liquor control laws.
She made him drink antifreeze?
Yeah. It's not, expressly found in the lyrics of the song, but I think you can imply that as a possible series of events here.
Well, I mean, if you get into so Miss Sakamoto is named in the song, presuming that she is his instructor, and is because she failed him in geometry. Whatever happens, they should probably break up. Miss Sakamoto is taking advantage of her student. There's some codependency issues maybe going on here because she's clearly manipulating him. She's dancing with him. She's making love to him, and then she hits him with technology.
Yeah, most universities have policies where you're not supposed to be dating somebody that you are teaching in class. And the fact that they're calling her Miss Sakamoto and not doctor implies that she's not tenured. So she's very much in trouble for that. Failing him in geometry, possibly in retribution for a failed relationship.
I would think he'd be able to challenge that grade, maybe get a chance to retake the final.
Yeah, and file a sexual discrimination claim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because universities consider sexual harassment to be a form of sexual discrimination.
So, do we find Miss Sakamoto from Thomas Dolby's college guilty or not guilty, Cheapskate?
Most likely guilty if she's hitting him intentionally. So that's going to be pretty serious crime.
I sentenced Thomas Dolby to rest your eyes, maybe get a couple eye patches, take the week off. Actually, you take the semester off. Just be good to yourself. You've been through a lot.
And I sentence Thomas Dolby to take his interest in science and divert it towards something like Star Trek so that he'll never have to worry about having sex again.
That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks to our announcer, Deb Slater. If there's a song you'd like us to feature, send your song ideas to songcrimes@gmail.com. If you like the songs you hear, buy them on iTunes, or even better, support your local independent music store. And as always, don't do anything stupid, but if you do, keep your mouth shut. Court is adjourned.
Would you like to go undercover to fight discrimination? If so, you can become a fair housing tester. Find your local fair housing organization at nationalfairhousing.org.